Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Quiroz and in this video I will explain what conversational turn taking is. Before starting speaking about taking turns, I want to give an explanation of what a conversation is. So what is a conversation? It is very simple. Conversation is an informal interchange of thoughts, information, etc. by spoken words. To have a conversation, we need more than one participant, or else we would be talking about a monologue or a speech. So, the conversation also needs to have some order, or else it wouldn't make sense. And in order for the conversation to make sense, we need what is called turn taking, or if we put it in other words, taking turns, which basically means that the speakers need to respect the other speaking time. So they take turns like in a tennis game. Imagine the ball going back and forth to one player to the other, so the same happens with the turns of a conversation. First, the first speaker and the listener listens, and then the speaker B answers to speaker A. It goes back and forth like a tennis ball. After having explained these concepts, I want to delve into turn taking a little bit farther. So the first thing that we need to notice in a conversation is the fluency and the order lines of the turn-taking system. What you need to know is that the turn-taking involves short gaps between each unit, and speakers take turns in a conversation so they don't overlap each other, because overlapping is seen negatively most of the times. However, it is true that in some occasions, depending on the social context, overlapping to finish the other sentence is seen positively, since it demonstrates, it shows that the listener is paying attention. Let's see an example.
I think that Barcelona is going to win.
No way. Madrid is much better. He's going to win.
Oh, shut up. Barcelona is much more better.
No. So, in this example, we see how speaker A interrupts speaker B and is seen negatively. So, I went to the cinema to watch this movie of Avengers.
Infinity War.
Yeah, so I think it's really good. You should watch it. However, in this second example, we see how speaker B finishes speaker A's sentence because he's paying attention to her words. And this is seen positively. But how do speakers do not interrupt each other? Well, it's very simple. There's two basic operations besides taking turns, which are holding and yielding the turn. Holding the turn means that the speaker doesn't want to be interrupted and uses words like, well, I mean, so he or she doesn't get interrupted. And by saying these words, the speaker proves that what he or she is going to say is going to last a little bit longer. And by yielding the turn to the other speaker is when the other speaker who has taken his turn will say some things like, you know, or right, or even stopping speaking, so the other person is allowed to speak and take his or her turn. Let's skip to understandings and misunderstandings. We find two signals which show understandings and misunderstandings. First of all, back-channel signals, which are face-to-face communication, like, oh, I see, really, or things like nodding or And these are useful to show understanding when the other participant is having his or her turn, but we don't consider these as turns or overlaps. Intonation is also really important to show not only understanding but a reaction of what you are listening. And the other signal is the repeal signals, which are verb actions to identify a breakdown in the conversation. And these can be self-initiated, like, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, or they can be other-initiated, like, sorry, what? Or, I beg your pardon? So finally, let's move to turn sequences so we can understand how conversations work. If we picture a tennis game again, as I said before in the beginning of the video, we see that the ball is going to one player and to the other one. So the same happens with conversations. There is an exchange of turns between one speaker and the other. An exchange is at least made up by two turns. For instance, when we say, how old are you? and the other answers the age, for instance 20. So there's 2 turns. But it is true that it can have more turns, such as when we say, how are you? The other answers, I'm fine, thank you, and you? And the speaker A answers again, I'm fine, thank you, or whatever. So these exchanges are normally predicted, as for instance when we say thank you and the other answers you're welcome, and these are called adjacency pair. But in a conversation we can also find preceding exchanges, which introduce the important information to the listener. And here's an example. So you know I've been getting really high marks this semester.
Yes, so...
And you know I'm a really responsible child.
Yes, why?
Can I go to a party this weekend? So this video is coming to an end, but before finishing I want to go over all the main concepts again so you don't forget. The main idea is that taking turns is important in a conversation so the speakers don't overlap each other, since overlapping is most of the times seen as something negative. Moreover, we need to know how and when to hold and yield the turn to the other speaker. Furthermore, to show or avoid understandings and misunderstandings, we use what are called back-channel and repair signals. And finally, we know that turn sequences are exchanges of turns, and we find 2 kinds, the adjacency pair and the preceding exchanges. So this has been all. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you understood all the concepts and that you enjoyed the video. Bye.